Welcome back. Okay, it's time to finish up our skill tree. So if you remember from last time, let's take a look here where we're at. So we've got a skill tree here, but if you remember, there's no rules, right? It doesn't enforce the tier rules, and it doesn't actually do anything, right? This doesn't give us strength, and these don't, jump or add jump or light grenade. We actually just we automatically have them, right? So that's what we're going to fix today. But to start, we never really came up with how we were going to deal with our action slots, right? We never defined that. What we did here, which was temporary, is that we just went in our input graph, find it here, input graph, and we just hard-coded these, right? So this isn't what we want. We hard-coded it to R and F, and so this has got to go, okay? So this is in our input graph. We're just going to dump this because that's not what we want. It's not how we want to do this. What we want to do instead is we want to use this built-in ability slots because this is going to let us use some of the custom code that I've written to change abilities. So we want to clear all these out, right? Dump those, and we don't want the light grenade here. So all we want to do is leave in our standard attack that you start with, okay? And what we're going to do is I've decided that our game, it's kind of an action MMO kind of feel to it. We're not going to go with the standard WoW 1 through 0 spells. We're going for more action. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a 4 ability slots. All you get is 4 ability slots. And they're going to be defaulted to Q, E, R, F. Okay? So let's set that up. So let's go into our project settings. And we're going to go into our input. And you see we've got these usabilities. So we're only interested in these first 4. We're also going to open though this reset VR because R is one that we want. So we got to undo that because we want that one. So we're going to go to 1, 2, 3, and 4. We're also going to go down to secondary attack, and we're going to remove that E binding. Okay? It's fine to leave the left mouse on the primary attack. And we could later we might use secondary attack. If so, we'll put the right mouse button to it. But we're most interested in 1, 2, 3, and 4 here. These are going to be our slots. We're ignoring 5 through 9. We could delete them, but I'm not going to. Okay, so we're going to add 1 to each of these. And so we're going to start with the first spell slot is Q. And of course later we could build a UI where the player, could remap these. But a lot of these MOBA type or action MMOs, they kind of start with them using some of these keys here that are easy to get to. And so to keep it simple, we're going to start with that as well. And we're basically just mapping these out, find the R key, and finally the F key for ability 4. Great. So we've got them mapped. Q, E, R, F. I left 1, 2, 3, 4 in there. You could dump them if you want. Doesn't really matter. We're not going to use those keys for anything else. Okay, so what that's going to do is make sure that now I'm hitting Q, E, R, and F. Make sure they don't do anything, right? They're not trying to do anything. And that's because over here we set them to nothing. That's what we wanted. Okay, so now what we want to take a look at is those tier rules. Okay, and so to do that, going in our third-person character with abilities, we're going to spend most of our time here today. And what we need to do, I think we built the, no, okay. So we need to come here under skill tree variables, right here, and we need to create a new variable called count of skills per tier. This is going to be of type int. It's going to be an array, and the category is going to be skill tree. Okay, and this is on the server side here where it loads the skill tree data. And so we want to initialize this by adding zeros. So we're going to add 0. But we want to do this per, we're going to do this per the number of tiers we have. So let's start here with a for loop, not a for each loop. Okay, so for loop, it'll give us some numbers. We always start at 0, never 1. We're going to 9. This is going to basically say that we can have 10. We can have 10 tiers. We only have 0 and 1 right now, but it'll give us a little bit of room, and having extra is not going to hurt us. Now we want to make sure that we do this in the loop body. Okay, and then we're going to want to run something here to take the data that we loaded right here and initialize the beginning case. Let's take a look at what we've done under skill tree. Okay, so we started creating this one here, update skills per tier. And that I actually want that name back because I need that name here. So I renamed update skills per tier on skill change because that's really what that one is. And now I'm creating another one called update skills per tier. And this is going to be the one that does the initialization. And we're going to put that in skill tree. And it has no imports or exports. And so now we're going to go and build this. We're basically looping through. So skill tree serialized. We're going to parse it into an array. The delimiter is semicolon. Empty strings is fine. We're going to loop through this. So this is to set the initial case on load because, you know, sometimes you start with skills already and we don't want to start back at 0 every time or we'll end up with the wrong result. So I guess I have to talk about this real quick. This is going to be confusing. But if we go back to our skill tree and we look at our table, notice that light grenade, we have the skill name have a space so it looks nice, but it does not allow spaces for this row name. And so basically we have to go and replace all the spaces to get the row name because we want to look it up. It took me a little while to figure out why this wasn't working. I was sending in the one with the spaces and it wasn't matching. So then we'll do a get player controller. Oh, not that one. Don't use that one. Get controller. We're going to cast to third person controller. We need to get access to the data table. I put the data table on the player controller. Might have been a mistake, to be honest. I really don't like using the player controller for anything other than UI. It might have seemed like it was a UI element, but it really isn't. The skills are actually a server-side thing. It's just a UI is representing it. So, may at some point change that. But we need to get access to skill tree, which this is the data table. And then get data table row. And the row name is this return value here because we removed the space, therefore it's good. And okay, here's the thing I don't like. I do not like this at all. See, there's nothing here to pull. So it's got a weird thing here where you have to pick it. Now if I were to go and reconnect it, it'll lose it. However, once you break it, apparently it remembers. So that's kind of weird. I don't really like how that works. But that's what happens when you have these kind of nodes that morph themselves based on what you pick. So, just a blueprint thing. Okay, so now after we break those, we want to grab this count of skills per tier. Remember, this is all running on the server side. Players won't be able to break it. And we want to get get a reference. And we're interested in getting the row number and then increasing that by 1. Right? So we're basically looping through and saying, hey, count up the skills we already have, right? Because the skills we already have were the skill tree serialized. And we're looking them up one at a time and counting them up. Okay, so that looks good. We'll go back here, and on completed, I accidentally pulled off this one and it ran multiple times, which was not ideal. So we're going to come back, event graph, and we're going to say update skills per tier. Okay, so that gets our initial case set. So now what we need to do is see if we ever finished this. We did not. We created this update skills per tier on skill change, but we never finished it. So now we got to go finish it. So a lot of this code is actually the same. Enough of it I almost created another function for it, but at the end there was something different, so I didn't. Okay, I'm going to grab that to begin with. It's a little different at the end. Might still have been a good idea to create another function here. If you want to, you can. But I'll show you where it's different. Okay, so we grab this, and this needs to get modified. We had add or remove, but we also need to send in a skill name. I made that change since last time. Skill name. And that's what's getting sent here directly. We're running the same logic. We're looking it up, but here's where things are going to change. We're adding a branch node. This has to handle add or remove. So we're going here. Remember, when you say something or something on a bit field, it means that 0 is the first one, 1's the second. It's a very common programming technique. So add is 0, which is false. Turn false into a bit, it's 0, true is 1. And so this now is going to do increment and decrement. Should be good. Okay, so we got that one taken care of. Let's scroll down here, and we got to do some work here. A lot of stuff changed. This is actually a pretty difficult... This is getting into the area where it's doing more than I like to do in Blueprints. I like orchestrating and configuring in Blueprints. I don't like coding in Blueprints. And this got a little too much into the coding. Okay, so what we did a few things here. Okay, so we've got some more functions to create. Get tier from skill name. Man, this has got that same code again. Yeah, at some point we might come back and make this a shared function. Could have made this a little bit cleaner. I did this over quite a few days, Been working on it every day for the past week, and it looks like I forgot that a lot of this code is the same. A lot of it. So let's come back to here, and let's grab, wait, not that one, this one. And we're basically going to grab this, 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 and paste it over here. Basically doing the same thing again. There's a lot of lookups to the data table. This all gets done server side, verifies people, make sure people can't hack it. This function in particular takes in a skill name and returns an int called tier number, and it always has to return something. So because of that, we're going to have this. I'm hitting Control-C, Control-V. And if a row's not found, the air condition's going to be -1. And if the cast failed, it's also going to be -1 because we can't get the tier. However, if we do get it, it's going to return the row number. So we're basically looking it up. Actually, that is the function I meant to reuse. Yeah, I did. That's the one. So notice how that gets the number. And that's the same thing that we do here. Get the number. And that's the same thing. Well, no. It's a little different on this one. It's the same thing we do here. I gotta change it right now. I'm sure I'll screw it up and it won't work. But we'll come back later and switch that. That was what I planned from last time. I just forgot that was there. So anyway, we got a few things duplicated. Come back and clean that up later. Yeah, this basically looks up the tier for any skill name, which we do a lot. Okay, so back here, this stuff, we had to make ourselves some room. And it's because we need to do some additional checks. The first one is on both of these. We need to get tier from skill name. And down here too. We need that on both add and remove. And we're going to connect these back to skill name. Yeah, the wires are getting ugly. Okay. And there's two other functions we don't have. So the first one is called, let's put this in skills. Okay, and this one's going to be function is skill tier requirement met. So this is the one that checks to see, hey, when I try to click on the second tier, is the first tier have enough points in it, right? So we're going to create new things. We're going to create a input for tier number. And I'm actually going to spell it right. Oh, great. I hate it when this happens. Okay, we're deleting it. Yeah, that's a bummer. When you do the wrong capitalization, it won't let you fix it. I think because behind the scenes, Blueprint's not case sensitive, but C++ is. Okay. Minimum. I'm adding this. We're not actually going to use it, but you may want to use it in your game. To keep it simple for this demo, we're just going to say there's 1 point per tier, but you may want to do more like the WoW type thing where you put 5 points into it type of thing, which you totally can, and this minimum skills per tier would help you do that. Okay, so we're going to do an easy out here and say tier number greater than 0. On true, we continue. On false, so we're going to have an output here of type bool, and it's going to say is requirement met. And so if it's false, it's just instantly, right? Because you don't need any points below the 0 tier, right? The first tier. So it's always true. If you send that one in, it's always true. Okay, we're going to need local variable. Okay, so this local variable is called counted up to tier. And we start by initializing it to 0 every time. Okay, so counted up to tier was not supposed to be an array. Setting it back, change variable type. There we go. Okay, and so now what we want to do is we want to take that count of skills per tier array, and we want to do a for each loop with break. Break means we're going to have an early out, if a certain case. This is a performance saver, but it's also just a good idea. It's actually not going to save any performance because this thing's got like 10 rows, so it doesn't matter. But you get in the habit of doing things the right way. So we're going to say, is the array element greater than or equal to, and we're going to check this minimum skills per tier. In our case, it's going to be 1. So we're basically checking, hey, is it met? And we're going to loop through, and you have to have one. We're assuming that it's correct because we're assuming you can't get it out of order. So therefore, you always have to have a 1 in a row before you can go to the next row. Therefore, on a false, we can just say, oh, we're done. On a true, we have to take the counted up tier. I want to set that. And we can set that equal to the array index plus 1. We're saying that that's the tier that's been counted up to, and we've made sure that it counts. And so then what we're going to do is on completed, we're going to copy this return node. And on completed, we're going to get counted up to tier and ask, is it greater than or equal to what we said the requirement had to be? And so the requirement that had to be was the tier number that we're checking. Okay? And so that finishes our is skill tier requirement met. We're going to put that in the skill tree. Done. Okay. We also have to do the reverse for removing them, which is get max tier level. So we add another function, get max tier level. This one's very similar. Potentially we could combine some of this. But we're going to start out with it individually. And this one's basically doing a very similar thing, but a little bit different. Enough we're going to copy this. So we want to loop through each one, and this returns, doesn't need any inputs, but it returns max tier level as an integer. Okay, and it's going to be down here on the completed. And so what we do is we say, take the array element, and is it less than 1, meaning it's not, now again, this is one where, yeah, so this is one where we probably should send in the amount of points it needs for the tier to be completed to match the other one, but here I've actually got it hard-coded to 1. But for consistency, we probably should set it equal to a value we send in case you used a different number than 1. But you'd have to do some other stuff to get it to work anyway, so I'm not going to do it. It actually gets a lot more complicated. Okay, and then we'll break, go to here, and we take the last array index minus 1. Okay, and it's basically telling us, hey, what's the max tier that they have a point in, right? So you know, what's the, did they have a point in just 0? Did they have a point in no tiers? Do they have a point in tier 1? Do they have a point in tier 10? What's the maximum number? It's just looping through, counting up. There might be an easier way to do that, but anyway. Okay, that looks good, and it's already in skill tree. Okay, so we got that one. So we've got save skill, add, remove, update skill tier and change, update skill per tier, get tier, skill requirement. Okay, I'm gonna add one here. I'm not to that point yet. We're gonna have the last two are add skill effect and remove skill effect. but we're not there yet. Let's go back to the event graph and see what we're missing. So we got skill tier here. Okay, so this one has to call get max tier level. This is on the removal side. And this one has to call get tier from skill name. And so this one's going to send in the skill name. We probably could have thrown that to a variable and made this a little bit less. I really hate cluttering up variables. Yeah. It's a bummer that certain things like these events and stuff can't be done in functions. They have to be done in this event graph, even though an event is really a function. It's very confusing. Okay. So check, is the skill tier requirement... Okay, so... Wait, that was the wrong one. Get tier from skill tree was not what we wanted there. What we wanted was, is skill tier requirement met? There we go. And that's for the adding side. For the tier number, we grab the one from the previous. And the minimum skills per tier, we're sending in 1. Because that's what we're doing. You only have to have 1. 1 per tier and it counts. Okay, so we need some more room. And so this one, we say, okay, is the max tier level greater than the tier we're trying to remove? Because if so, you can't remove one from a lower level if there's one at a higher level. So we'll do a branch on that and decide whether we can remove higher or lower. Okay, and if we can, we do this. Otherwise, we print a string out that says points must be removed from a higher tier first. Somebody has asked how we can make a nice reusable message box. You know, to kind of, because, you know, in some places we just print out strings and they want a nice one. So we'll be looking at that in a future thing. And if you guys have any suggestions, I like suggestions, especially, you know, smaller, easier stuff I can do in between some of these bigger ones that take, you know, 20, 30 hours to put together. And so we will be taking a look at that, and this would be a great one to use as a actual message box that shows up nicely rather than just a debug string. Okay, so that looks good. Here's where we're going to have remove skill effect and add skill effect, but I want to go here first before I forget. This update character stats base was the wrong one. So I want to talk about that for a second. I'm changing it to update character stats. So one of the things that's a little confusing is that I have an OWS character and I have an OWS character with abilities. OWS character is for people who don't use gameplay abilities, and OWS character with abilities are for the ones that do. However, the stats are duplicated. Inside OWS character, there's strength, there's dexterity, there's all these stats. But gameplay abilities won't allow you to use those. Therefore, gameplay abilities needs to be in an OWS attribute set that it can use. So now strength is in 2 places, all these things are in 2 places. And so we have to deal with that there's these 2 copies. And so I also have 2 update functions. The ones that have base in the name are the ones that want to run in OWS character and won't save the attributes. And the ones in OWS update, the update character stats runs in character with abilities and does update the attributes. We'll see this a little bit later. It caused another issue. One that I may fix in the future. We'll see. It's a little bit hard to determine. I don't know. In my opinion, it's just my opinion. If you're making a multiplayer game and you're not using gameplay abilities, you're doing it wrong. So while I support OWS character at this point, there's the possibility I phase it out in the future and only support people who use gameplay abilities. I don't know. It's a tough one. We'll see. Okay, so let's come back here, and here we say is requirement met is our condition for branching, and again we have to do the same thing. If it's true on this one, then take away the talent and add the skill, and if not, we want to print ourselves a message that says not enough points in previous tier. Okay, so that's the one that you're trying to use a higher tier than what you can get to. And that's looking pretty good. Yeah, I like that. Okay, so now I do have to go to, well, we want this to actually do something, right? And while this may not be the end, here's what we're going to do temporarily. We're going to add some values to this structure. Some of these might get changed in the future when we add other systems, but I don't know. Some of it might work. We'll see. Not 100% sure yet. So we're going to add ability to grant. And this is going to be of type gameplay ability class reference. So a class is a type. So a reference means that you have an instance of something, which is the blue. The purple means that you have nothing. You just have a type. You just know that it's this kind of gameplay ability, but you don't have anything, which is what we want here, because we just want to know what ability do we want to grant. And then we're going to add ability to grant level. We're actually not going to use this one. Found out that I need to change some stuff before we can use that. And then this is temporary. Eventually there will be a UI for picking what spell slot it goes into, and you'll just be adding it into your spell book, and then you'll just be granting them back. But we're not there yet. That's a future video. So temporarily I'm adding that. And then I also have stat to increase and stat to increase amount. And the stat to increase is actually a string. I'm going to use a code for that. And that should do it. Okay, so now that we've got those, let's come back into our data table, Sarah's skill tree, and let's fill in these missing values. So strength is a stat to increase, so no ability to grant, and I'm just going to use str. I'm used to doing that. We could type out strength. It's just going to be something we match later. And we're going to say a 1, so it goes up by 1. And then for jump, we don't want to increase a stat, but we do want to give the leap ability. And for our light grenade, we want to give the light grenade ability. Okay, cool. So now we have those available, and we can create function add skill effect. So we now actually want to make it do something. And we'll put that in skill tree. And what do we need to send in? We need to send in another skill name. This is seeming very familiar. Skill. I totally need to make this a reusable function. This is what happens when you do development over multiple days. You forget what you've done on previous days. Because we're basically going to be doing the same lookup again. So I'm going to come to one of these. Not that one. This one. And I'm going to grab from here to here. And it's going to get copied into here. That's the part that should be turned into another function. But I know if I do it now, this whole thing's not going to work. I had to do a ton of testing to get this to work, man. It did not want to work. Just stuff gets pretty complicated here, and it was real easy to have things add up correctly but not subtract correctly. And so we're going to say if ability to grant is not equal to empty, which means there is an ability to grant, then we're going to use, this is a OWS function called change spell. So this can change our spell slot. So remember, we temporarily have our spell slot here. Normally this is not what it would do. It wouldn't change the spell slot, it would just grant it to you. But we don't have any of that functionality yet, so to show it today, we have to change the spell slot. And then we're going to just do a hard-coded check here to say, hey, if it wasn't that, is it possible that you were trying to update the strength stat? And if so, I don't know if we're going to get to this or not. Yeah, maybe. Video's getting a little long. Temporarily, I'm just going to say add 1 to strength. May get to that or not, we'll see. And then the spell here, we want to link up to the spell to grant. Okay, and that's going to come back over to our event graph. And it's down on this one, because this is the add skill effect. And again, all the way back here. It's ugly. And then the one that goes here is going to be remove. So new function, remove skill effect. So when you take away the talent, it undoes what it did. And again, of course, the same code is duplicated over again. Definitely needs to be a function. And for remove skill effect, we're also going to send in skill name. Remove the space. So just in case I didn't show here, this is an empty string. See how it moved? Maybe it wasn't. We'll have to see if that ends up breaking anything. Maybe on copy it loses the value. Anyway, it's supposed to basically take empty and turn it into a 2. This is an ugly, ugly case. Normally, if this is code, you can clearly see that it's, double quote space double quote, but you can't see it here real well. Be nice if there was something that you could see that, hey, this is empty string. Let me just see. No, they didn't. What is replacing line? It just does it in line rather than making a copy. Copies are fine. Okay, so we come here, and we're basically doing... Okay, so... Yeah. We're basically copying some more of this. But this is not going to completely work, and I'll tell you why. So we're not going to finish this. I have to make a change in the underlying OWS. So the problem here is that we would want to call change spell and set new spell to empty. The problem is the underlying code says if you send us an empty spell, don't do anything. So there's no way to actually clear it out back to nothing or none. So, yeah, it doesn't... there's not going to be a way to do that today. So we may have to stop a little short on that. Okay, I'm getting to where I really want to try this out. So this would be, just put something here temporarily, remove ability. And then this down here would be where we handle the stat upgrade. Okay, but let's see what we got. Let's see what we got. I feel like we got some errors here and some stuff we got to look into, but let's take a look. So, to start out, it's probably going to sign me out. No, it didn't. Okay. So to start out, you want to make sure that your strength is set to 11. Okay, so go in there and set that to 11 and save. And then we want to make sure that our premium currency, which is our talents, is set to 3. So we've got one for each one. You may have that from a previous one. You may not. And we're going to hit play. I guess I don't really care about nighttime right now. And we're going to see, can we activate these? Look at that. Not enough points in a previous tier. Okay, cool. So I'm pretty happy with that. I'm not happy with that. Okay. So that obviously did not work. That one did. Why that one? Uncheck that. Yeah, interesting. Okay, so that one's got a problem. And can we check this one? Yes. And now can we check this one? No. Okay, so we got something going on there. We can always check those, but we can't check this one. Okay, so that's a bit problematic. We'll start out by showing that I'm hitting Q and E. Q is supposed to be our leap, and E is supposed to be our light grenade. Let's see if this actually adds the light grenade. It does not. So it's not actually working. Okay. So, let's take a look at what we got here. And let's follow this through. Okay. So we've got that. Just to remember, switch has authority, and this actually runs on remote. That could be easy to get confused there, so I just want to make sure. It's only going to call it on remote, so it's not really an issue. And then it makes a call up to the server. That's good. And we go and see, is it activated or not? That switches our two paths. Are we adding or removing? We check this. We get tier from skill name. We check the is skill tier requirement met. Obviously that is giving us a wrong value on that one. We add, remove from skill tree serialized. We're adding the skill effect here. Okay, we need remove skill effect, even though it's not really doing anything right now. Okay, and save skill tree and update character stats. Go take a look at this. That looks right. Finding the event graph's a little bit tough there with all those windows open. Okay. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Ah, we're missing one. What am I missing? I've got save skill tree, add skill to tree serialized, remove skill tree serialized, update per tier on skill change, update skills per tier, add skill effect. Oh, remove skill effect didn't get added. Up to skill tree. There we go. Okay, that's good. Let's double check the player controller. What I don't remember is if we did everything last time. So let's go to input graph. And here we go. Input toggle skill tree. Flip flop. Yeah. So wait. Okay, that's good. It calls that. It rebuilds the skill tree. Adds to viewport and sets UI mode. That's actually correct. I don't see any issue there. Okay. So our player controller is probably okay. I'm just going to double check that those match. They do, or that wouldn't be working. Okay. So our problem's over here, and let's go check our initialization code. Looks good. Update skills per tier. Potentially that spacing issue on here. Yeah, it's like when it copied it, it didn't copy the from. So you may have to go find every one of those and add a space. That's just really dumb. There's no way to know if it has a space or not. So you may have to go into every one of these. I do not like that at all. Another reason to only have that in one place. Make sure there's a space. Okay, now that one did have a space. Man, so that was the problem. They actually didn't have spaces. A good idea would be to do this. Print string. And so what we want to do is do the name. Remove skill effect. So we know where we're at. And then say row not found. That would at least tell us earlier that, hey, it wasn't doing what we thought. So I think what was happening here is that the space wasn't getting removed and the row wasn't being found. Add skill effect, row not found. Let's see if that makes a difference. I think I got all of them. No, I don't think I got that one. So you have to go through every single one and make sure there's a space. That's yucky. See if that makes a difference. Otherwise, things are looking about the same. You know what? I don't like nighttime. Go here and put 3600 in it. There we go. Okay. So, can I activate this? No. Can I activate this? No. Okay. So that was good, right? Not enough points in previous tier. I like that. This is different result than last time. So now we put a point in this one. And now can we activate the jump? No. No, we still can't. So apparently that one didn't correctly, well, strength doesn't even have, oh, light grenade, the reason that one worked differently is that one was the one with the space in it. So this is an issue that's not related to the space. This is an issue in our checking the requirements, because it, for some reason, it thinks, hey, you still can't do it. Okay. So let's go back to our third-person character with abilities, and let's take a look at that specific code. So what's happening here, we're going to assume that that's okay. What's happening here is that it's going here, this is skilled tier requirement met, and it should be saying yes, and it's not. So there's two potential cases. One is that, oh, it could be this right here. Add skill tree serialized. Add to skill tree serialized. Yeah. So see here, look, the skill name's not being sent in. I think that's because that was a new field we just added. It was. So add and then remove, the skill name's not being sent in. Yep, there we go. We found it. That's because I had started working on some of that last time and I stopped in the middle. And I probably should have gone further. Okay. Now let's take a look. So we can't activate these. It gives us the red error message. We activate this, and now we can activate it. Now, by doing that, we should potentially have the ability to use that, and we don't. So we need to take a look at that. Oh, we never set... No, we did set them up. Yeah, let's take a look at that. Does it give us the jump ability? No. So we're not getting either of those abilities. But I think if we check our spell book... Oh. Yeah, attack and light grenade are in there. Not leap, though. Could potentially be a problem. Anyway, we don't have that connected yet, but Q&E should have activated those. So we'll take a look at why not. But at least this time, the tier rules are working. Okay, so now both of these have been selected. Can we unselect this? No. See? It says points must be removed from a higher tier first, so that's good. And so now if we remove from these higher tiers, then we can remove it. Okay, so our tier rules seem to be being enforced correctly, but we're not being granted our abilities. So let's take a look at that. Okay, so third-person character with abilities. Okay, so these are set to none, and that is what we want. None, none, none. And so then in that add player effect, this comes and grants. When it doesn't equal that, it comes and grants a new spell. So print string, make sure this is working, change spell to, I think we can probably get a name off this. I think we can get a name. Yeah. Okay. Oh, so you can see there when it is selected, I'm hitting the back and forth arrow keys. So that one does have a space. And double check that we are sending it in. Add skill effect. So that's the one that should add it. So let's take a look. Add skill effect. I do want to throw in here while I'm here. So we remember, it's on the off side. I'll do that on add skill effect, and I'm going to do it again on the remove. Only the server gets to do this. Nope, I don't want that. Off. There we go. Okay. So, let's go try it again and watch the log. So we're looking to see when we add jump, no, it's not even getting there. Like right, it's not getting there. Okay. So we got to figure out why it's not getting there. Okay. Let's see. Go here. Make sure it gets here. Add skill effect. It didn't see it doing the row not found. And I think we went... I think we put in an ability to grant. Yeah, let's try that first. Probably a simple logic error. Oh, there we go. Change spell to leap ability. Was that there last time and I just missed it? Yeah, okay. Interesting. Let's try to see. So it does seem to be getting there, yet it does not seem to be setting the spell, which is interesting. Interesting, yes. Let's see what it could be. Set to empty. Load abilities. Oh, let me check something. I forgot I removed something else up here. No, it's not a problem. Let me test something real quick. No, I guess I don't have that one here. I want to try to see if this matters. I actually thought this was going to be a problem. I guess I only need the first two. I thought this was going to be a problem, and then it wasn't. Oh, wait. Maybe that's the issue, the slot. Yeah, let's see. That might be the issue. Up to skill tree. Okay, so jump. Ability to grant spell slot. Yeah. Yeah, let's check that. I probably did not match those correctly. So jump goes in slot 1, and this goes in slot 2. So jump goes in slot 1, slot 2. There's where the problem is. Okay. Thought I typed those in, but I guess not. We're going to go back and clear these. Then they can start blank. So now we're going to give it a try. Clear this out. Okay, so I try to use jump, nothing. I try to use light grenade, nothing. Now I have jump on Q. And I still don't have light grenade. Now I have light grenade. Woohoo! So now all we're missing is our strength stuff. It's already late, but I kind of want to do it so that we can say we're done with the skill tree for now. So here we go. We're going to go fast. Okay, so we need to go up to your ability system, and we need to create a folder called, it's incorrectly named, but it's fine, stat increases. Inside stat increases, we create a gameplay ability called, that goes from the default gameplay ability, and we call it stat increase, and decrease it is, but stat increase base. And then we open this, and real simple, commit ability. And then we apply gameplay effect to owner. And then we end ability. We go to our class defaults. Instance per execution we're going to leave on this. We do not want it to do to end remote, and this actually is server initiated. We now add a variable called stat effect to apply. This is of type gameplay effect, and it is the class reference. We then click this button to expose it, and we drag it to apply. Okay. We now come here and we create a gameplay effect. So blueprint class, gameplay effect, not the template. And we're going to call it strength stat increase. We come here, it is an infinite, and the modifier is going to be strength, and the magnitude is going to be 1. We now duplicate it. The duplicate is going to be decrease, and -1. Okay, we're good on those. And we're now going to create a new gameplay ability. This time we're going to inherit from stat increase base and create str stat increase. So the problem, I had to escape there. These were supposed to have effect on the end, so they wouldn't match the name of the other. And we create a new gameplay ability, which I guess it removed that one. Stat increase base, str stat increase, and we'll duplicate str stat decrease. We open up each one of those, and all we do is change it. This one is the increase, so we pick the increase effect. And this one is the decrease, so we picked the decrease effect. These are to actually change the values at runtime. You can't just update the values. You have to add effects to change them at runtime. So now we will go back to our third person blueprint. And remember, we have to grant them. So come up here in event graph to begin play. And remember, we have to grant our abilities. At some point we need to make this more dynamic. But for now, we will just hard code them here. And so we need to give this person ability to the stat increase and the stat decrease. Okay, so remember the part that we didn't finish was the add skill effect, this code down here. And so we now will be doing that. And skill effect. Okay, so we got the branch, we're removing this print string, and we're setting strength hold on. ODBS attribute set. ODBS attribute set. Set strength. And we have to do a little bit something weird here because, so currently this is not actually holding the correct value. So we're going to have to initialize it by doing get float attribute from ability system component. Drag in the ability system. We want to get the strength attribute. My bad. I don't want the base. I want get float attribute from ability system. And we're going to grab the strength. And what we're going to do is we're going to initialize that from the correct one every time. I may add to a fix for this, but anyway, that fixes the issue temporarily. Then we're going to increment it, and then we're going to, that will update the value behind the scenes, but it actually does not update the running value. It's kind of weird. It can have a value but not have a value. And so then to update the running value, we'll actually update it with this gameplay effect that added 1, which was an infinite. And that should do it. And this is the value that'll get written to the database. This is the value that will change your game, right? So this is going to go to the database, and this is the one that's actually going to make it so you actually have an extra strength to do more damage. Okay, we're going to do the same thing in remove. So let's copy this, and we're going to go to remove skill effect. We still don't have the way to remove the ability, but we can do this. We're setting the value equal to what it was, and the difference here is that this now becomes minus minus. And you can do what I did, where I actually printed the values out of this and the other to make sure they're actually changing. The only verification we're actually going to do here is in the database. But if you wanted to make sure, did this actually, oh, this one needs to get changed to decrease. I mixed that up before too. We're just going to make sure that the database changes and call it a day. So we go in here to the database. We see that the value of future 3, it should still be 11. It's 10. Am I on the right one? Yeah. Yeah, somehow I got set back to 10. We'll use 11. And then we're going to hit play. And what we should notice is that when we hit the strength, we should be able to come back here, go to future 3, 12, see that? And when we remove it, we come back here, and it's back to 11. So there we go. So it correctly updated it. And you'll just have to trust me that it is also updating the strength using that gameplay effect. It is actually updating it. And if you wanted to know for sure, all you'd have to do is just take that get float attribute from ability, and just after the try activate by class, just print that value out, and you could see that that actually changes too. So if you came here and you basically took this value right here and you threw it into a print that's on the other side of this, it would go pull the value again and see that it changed. We may also be able to see by how much damage we do. I'm not sure how. I think we use strength in the damage. So there we go. We now have a semi-working. It doesn't remove these abilities, so that is a problem. We will have to take a look at that, but I have to modify OWS before we can do that. But we start out. I'm hitting Q and E. I have no abilities. These are being enforced correctly. We're at 11 strength. We're now at 12 strength. It removes the talent point. I still don't have the Q or E ability. I hit this. I now have the Q ability. Still no E. I hit this. And I now have the E ability. And unfortunately, when I take these away, they still do it. But this one does correctly take away our strength. And there you go. We now have a semi-working skill tree. And so that concludes the skill tree for now. I think the next thing that we're going to look at, because a lot of people have been asking about this lately, is how do we do combos, right? People want to do combo abilities using gameplay abilities. There's a great way to do it. And so that's going to be the next video. But until then, see ya.